Imagine visiting your daughter's grave and discovering a secret that changes your life forever. Billionaire Andrew Whitmore had lost everything the day his only daughter died in a tragic accident. Every Sunday he visited her grave, carrying the heavy silence of regret in his heart. But one cold morning, something strange happened. As he slowly walked toward the grave, he heard two little girls crying. At first, he thought they were lost children, but then he heard the words that made his blood run cold. "Mummy, please come back." Andrew froze. Mummy? They were crying at his daughter's grave. Confused and shaken, he stepped closer and asked them a question that would reveal a shocking truth. The girls looked at him with trembling eyes and said something he never expected to hear. "She was our mother." In that moment, Andrew's world turned upside down. His daughter had been hiding a life he never knew about. Two little girls who had been waiting for a family that never came. Why did she keep them a secret? Why was she afraid to tell him? And what will Andrew do when he realizes these girls might be the last living pieces of his daughter? What begins as a quiet visit to a grave will soon uncover a heartbreaking secret, a painful regret, and a life-changing decision that will touch your heart. Stay with this story until the very end, because sometimes the greatest treasures in life are the ones we never knew we had. Now, let's begin. Welcome to Heroic Stories Hub, the place where powerful stories come to life. Here you'll experience emotional journeys, inspiring moments, shocking twists, and life lessons that stay with you long after the story ends. If you love stories about courage, kindness, justice, and unexpected miracles, then you're in the right place. Subscribe to Heroic Stories Hub and become a part of a community that believes every story has the power to change a life. Now let's dive into today's unforgettable story. Andrew Whitmore's footsteps suddenly froze on the gravel path. The sound reached him again. Soft crying. Not the loud kind people make in public, but quiet, broken crying that sounded like someone trying desperately not to be heard. Andrew slowly lifted his head. The cemetery was empty. Gray clouds covered the sky, and a cold wind moved through the tall trees, making the branches whisper softly. Fallen leaves rolled across the ground as if the entire place was breathing with sadness. This was the place Andrew hated the most, yet visited every week, because this was where his daughter slept forever. Emily Whitmore. The only person who ever softened the heart of one of the coldest billionaires in the country. 3 years ago, a late-night phone call had destroyed Andrew's entire world. "Mr. Whitmore, there's been an accident." A drunk driver, a smashed car, and his daughter, gone before he could even say goodbye. Since that night, Andrew Whitmore had continued running his billion-dollar empire. His company still grew, his wealth increased, newspapers still called him a genius businessman. But inside, he was empty. His mansion felt like a museum full of memories. Emily's piano still sat in the living room. Her favorite chair was untouched. Her laughter no longer filled the halls. And every Sunday morning, Andrew came here, to the grave. The only place where he allowed himself to feel the pain he hid from the world. Andrew slowly walked toward the white marble gravestone. But then he heard it again, a quiet sniffle. "I'm sorry, sir. We didn't mean to disturb anything." Andrew didn't answer immediately. His eyes were fixed on them. Something about their faces made his heart beat faster. Their eyes, their expressions, they felt familiar. He shook the thought away. Instead, he asked slowly, "What are you doing here?" The younger girl held the teddy bear tightly. "We came to see our mommy." Andrew felt a sudden cold wave pass through him. He pointed slowly toward the gravestone. "You mean her?" The older girl nodded. "Yes." Andrew's face became pale. "That's impossible." The girls looked confused. Andrew stepped closer now, staring at them carefully. "My daughter, Emily Whitmore, is buried here." The girls exchanged a small glance. "Yes," the older one said softly. "That's our mommy." Andrew felt like the air had disappeared from his lungs. For a few seconds he couldn't speak. He had spent his entire life controlling situations, solving problems, making impossible business deals. But right now, nothing made sense. His daughter had never told him about children. Never. He slowly rubbed his temple as if trying to wake himself from a dream. "What did you say your names were?" The older girl answered politely. "My name is Lily." She gently placed her hand on the younger girl's shoulder. "And this is my sister, Sophie." Sophie gave a tiny wave, still hugging the teddy bear. Andrew crouched down slightly so he could look at them at eye level. "How old are you?" he asked. 8, Lily replied. Andrew's stomach dropped. 8 years old. Emily died 3 years ago. That means these girls were already alive before the accident, which means, Andrew whispered slowly, "Who told you Emily Whitmore is your mother?" The girls looked surprised by the question. "Mommy told us," Sophie answered immediately. Andrew's heart began pounding loudly in his chest. He stood up again, running a hand through his hair. "That's not possible." Lily looked confused. "But she came to see us every week." Andrew turned quickly. "What?" "At the children's home," Lily continued quietly. The wind blew stronger across the cemetery. Andrew's mind was spinning now. Children's home? Orphanage? Emily had never mentioned visiting one, not once. He looked again at the girls. Their small faces were full of sadness. And suddenly, he noticed something that made his breath stop. Sophie's eyes. They were the exact same deep brown color of Emily's, the same shape, the same warmth. Andrew felt a sudden wave of fear. "No," he whispered to himself. "This can't be real." He had known his daughter his entire life. He told him everything. Or at least he thought he did. But now these 2 little girls were sitting at her grave crying for their mother. For the first time in years, the powerful billionaire felt completely powerless. And deep inside his heart, a terrifying question began to grow. What if these girls were telling the truth? Andrew Whitmore stood frozen beside the grave. The cold wind moved through the cemetery, but he barely felt it. His mind was trapped inside the words the girls had just spoken. "She came to see us every week." Those words echoed in his head again and again. His daughter, living a life he knew nothing about. Andrew slowly turned his eyes toward the 2 girls. Lily stood quietly, holding Sophie's hand as if she was used to protecting her younger sister. Sophie clutched the worn teddy bear tightly against her chest. Both of them looked small, fragile, and painfully real. Andrew swallowed hard. "My daughter visited you every week?" Lily nodded. "Yes." Andrew's voice grew sharper. "Where?" "At the children's home," Lily answered. Andrew's jaw tightened. "What children's home?" "St. Mary's," Lily said. Andrew immediately recognized the name. St. Mary's Children's Home was an old orphanage located on the edge of the city. His company had even donated money to it years ago. But Emily had never told him she went there, not once. Andrew rubbed his forehead slowly. "How long did she visit you?" he asked. "Since we were babies," Lily replied softly. Andrew's breathing became heavy. "Babies?" Lily nodded again. "She said she watched us grow up." Andrew felt the ground under his feet suddenly feel unstable. He looked at Sophie, who was gently touching the flowers on Emily's grave. "Mommy liked yellow flowers," Sophie whispered. Andrew felt his heart twist painfully. Emily loved yellow flowers. They used to grow them together in the garden when she was a child. He remembered her laughter as she ran around with dirt on her hands. "Dad, flowers make people happy." Andrew closed his eyes briefly, pushing the memory away before the pain grew stronger. When he opened them again, he focused on Lily. "Listen carefully," Andrew said slowly. "My daughter never told me she had children." Lily looked down at the ground. "Mommy said that might happen." Andrew's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" She hesitated for a moment before answering. "She said you were very busy." Andrew said nothing, but inside he knew that part was true. For most of Emily's life, he had been busy building his empire. Meetings, flights, business deals. He had always told himself it was for her future, but now those excuses felt empty. Lily continued speaking softly. "Mommy said you were strict." Andrew felt a deep sting in his chest. Strict. That word reminded him of many arguments he once had with Emily. "Dad, you never listen." "You don't understand the real world," Andrew had once shouted back. Their relationship was complicated. He loved her more than anything, but he was never good at showing it. Andrew slowly crossed his arms. "So she hid you from me?" Lily didn't answer, but her silence was answer enough. Sophie suddenly spoke. "Mommy said you had a big heart." Andrew looked down at her. "She said you helped lots of people." Andrew felt his throat tighten. Emily still believed in him, even after everything. "But she said you might not understand about us," Sophie continued quietly. Andrew's voice came out rough. "Why?" The girls looked at each other. Finally, Lily answered. "Because we were born before she was married." Andrew felt like someone had punched him in the chest. "What?" Lily nodded slowly. "She said people might judge her." Andrew stared at them in disbelief. Emily, his daughter, had faced something like that alone, without telling him? The idea made his chest ache with guilt. He sat down slowly on the nearby stone bench. For a moment, no one spoke. The cemetery was silent except for the wind. Finally, Andrew asked another question. "Where is your father?" Lily's face became sadder. "We don't know." Andrew's eyes softened slightly. "You never met him?" Lily shook her head. "Mommy said he left before we were born." Sophie hugged her teddy bear tighter. "But Mommy said we didn't need him." Andrew felt something burning behind his eyes. Emily had carried this burden alone, raising children secretly, visiting them every week, and never once asking him for help. The realization crushed him. He looked at the girls again. "And after she died?" he asked quietly. Lily's eyes filled with tears again. "Miss Clara told us." Andrew frowned. "Who is Miss Clara?" "The lady who runs the children's home," Lily explained. "She told us Mommy had an accident." Andrew looked down at the grave again. The memory of that terrible night returned instantly. The hospital lights, the doctor shaking his head. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore." Andrew felt his hands clench tightly. Sophie suddenly reached into her small bag. "Mommy gave us something." Andrew looked at her curiously. She carefully pulled out a folded photograph. The edges were worn from being handled many times. Sophie handed it to him. Andrew took it slowly. His hands trembled. When he looked at the picture, his heart nearly stopped. It was Emily. She was sitting on the floor of a small room, laughing. Both girls were in her arms, young, happy, loved. Andrew stared at the image as tears filled his eyes. Emily looked radiant in the photo, a kind of happiness he hadn't seen in years. He turned the picture over. There was handwriting on the back, Emily's handwriting. Andrew felt his chest tighten as he read the words, "My beautiful girls, one day I hope my father meets you and sees the wonderful hearts you have." Andrew's vision blurred with tears. Below that message were more words. "He may not understand at first, but deep down he is a good man." Andrew suddenly felt overwhelmed with emotion. His daughter had believed in him, even when she was afraid to tell him the truth. His voice cracked as he whispered toward the gravestone, "Emily, why didn't you tell me?" The girls looked at him quietly. They had never seen a grown man cry like this. Andrew slowly dropped to his knees beside the grave. For years he had blamed fate for taking his daughter away, but now he realized something far worse. She had been carrying a secret life filled with love and pain, and he had never noticed. He covered his face with his hands. "I failed you." The wind gently moved the flowers on the grave. Sophie stepped closer and gently touched Andrew's arm. "Are you okay, mister?" Andrew slowly lifted his head. He looked into their eyes again, and this time he saw it clearly. Emily's kindness, Emily's warmth, Emily's spirit. In that moment, a shocking truth settled deep in his heart. These girls were not strangers. They were the last living pieces of his daughter, and Andrew Whitmore was finally beginning to understand the secret Emily had carried all along. The wind moved quietly through the cemetery as Andrew Whitmore slowly lifted his head from his trembling hands. For several moments, no one spoke. The world felt strangely silent. Only the soft rustling of trees and the distant sound of birds filled the air. Andrew looked again at the photograph in his hands. Emily's smile stared back at him, bright, loving, peaceful, a smile he had not seen in years. His fingers shook slightly as he traced the edge of the picture. "I didn't know," he whispered under his breath. Lily and Sophie stood quietly nearby, watching him with uncertain eyes. They didn't fully understand who this powerful man was, but they could see the sadness on his face. Andrew slowly stood up. His knees felt weak, as if the weight of the truth had suddenly become too heavy for him to carry. He turned toward the girls. Their small faces looked nervous again. The younger one, Sophie, hid slightly behind her sister while clutching the teddy bear tightly. Andrew took a slow breath. "There's something I need to tell you." He looked at them with sad eyes. The girls listened carefully. Andrew's voice trembled as the words finally left his mouth. "I am your grandfather." Both girls blinked in surprise. "Grandfather?" Lily repeated. Andrew nodded slowly. "Yes. My daughter, Emily, was your mother." For a moment, neither of them moved. They simply stared at him as if trying to understand something impossible. Then Sophie stepped forward slowly. Her voice was soft and uncertain. "You mean your mommy's daddy?" Andrew felt his throat tighten again. "Yes." The little girl suddenly ran toward him and wrapped her arms around his waist. "Grandpa!" Andrew froze in shock. He had not expected that reaction. For years he had been surrounded by business partners, assistants, and employees. No one had hugged him like that in a very long time. Slowly, almost carefully, Andrew placed his arms around the little girl. Her small body trembled as she cried, "We thought you didn't want us." Andrew felt his heart shatter inside his chest. "No," he whispered softly. "I didn't know you existed." Lily stepped closer too, her eyes full of tears. "Mommy said you were busy." Andrew closed his eyes briefly. Busy. That word had followed him his entire life. Too busy to attend school events, too busy to listen to long conversations, too busy to notice the pain hidden in his daughter's heart. And now he understood the price of that busyness. Emily had been afraid to tell him the truth, afraid he would judge her, afraid he would reject her children. Andrew slowly knelt down so he could look directly at both girls. His voice shook with emotion. "I wish he had told me." Lily wiped her tears gently. "She wanted to." Andrew looked at her with surprise. "What do you mean?" Lily reached into her small bag again. This time she pulled out a folded piece of paper. "It's a letter." Andrew took it carefully. The paper was old and slightly wrinkled. His heart began pounding when he recognized the handwriting. Emily's handwriting. He opened the letter slowly. The girls waited silently while he read. The words felt like a knife cutting gently into his heart. "Dear Dad, if you're reading this, it means something happened to me before I found the courage to tell you everything. I know you always wanted the best for me, but I was afraid you would be disappointed in me. Lily and Sophie are the greatest gifts life ever gave me. I wanted to raise them proudly, but I didn't know how to explain everything to you. Please don't blame them for my choices. They are kind, loving, and full of hope, just like you were when I was little. If you ever meet them, please give them the love I can no longer give." Andrew's hands began to shake. A tear dropped onto the paper. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have trusted you more. But deep down, I always believed you would protect them if you knew the truth." Andrew lowered the letter slowly. His chest felt tight, filled with pain and regret. He turned toward Emily's grave. "I'm sorry." The wind gently moved the flowers lying on the stone. Andrew stepped closer to the grave. For years he had come here filled with anger at fate, but now he understood something he never saw before. Emily had not just been his daughter, she had been a mother, a woman carrying responsibilities, fears, and love he never noticed. And now those two little lives were standing behind him, waiting. Andrew turned back to Lily and Sophie. Both of them looked nervous again. "Are we in trouble?" Sophie asked quietly. Andrew immediately shook his head. "No." He knelt again and held their hands. "None of this is your fault." The girls relaxed slightly. Lily spoke carefully. "Miss Clara says we might be moved to another home soon." Andrew's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" "The orphanage is very full," Lily explained quietly. Andrew stood up slowly. Something inside him had changed. For years he had felt like life had taken everything from him, but now he realized something incredible. Life had just given him a second chance. He looked down at the girls with determination in his eyes. "You will not go to another home." The girls stared at him in surprise. "What do you mean?" Lily asked, confused. Andrew gently squeezed their hands. "You are coming home with me." Sophie's eyes grew wide. "To your house?" Andrew nodded. "Yes, my house is your house now." Lily looked shocked. "But you're very rich." Andrew gave a small, sad smile. "Yes, but none of that matters if I don't have a family." The girls looked at each other, unsure what to say. Andrew knelt down again so his eyes were level with theirs. "From today forward, you will never feel alone again." Sophie suddenly hugged him again. "Grandpa!" Lily joined the hug as well. Andrew wrapped his arms around them tightly. For the first time since Emily's death, he felt warmth in his heart. Not just pain, not just loss, but purpose. He turned his head toward the grave one last time. "I will take care of them," he whispered softly. The wind passed gently across the cemetery. The yellow flowers on Emily's grave moved softly, as if responding to his promise. Andrew stood up, holding both girls' hands. "Come on," he said gently, "let's go home." As they walked away from the grave together, Andrew realized something powerful. For years he believed success was measured by money, power, and achievements. But standing between his two granddaughters, he finally understood the truth his daughter had known all along: love, family, and the courage to protect the people who matter most. Those were the only things that truly made someone rich.